Hey guys, so we're looking at the last one. This is for the pretest for midpoint division and locate a point. And a train filled with radioactive waste is rolling from a nuclear power plant located at B negative 19, negative 11. Just let me adjust my focus here, sorry. Negative 19, positive 11 to a waste disposal site at 5763. So the first thing to notice here, what's really important in this statement is where we're going from. And that notice the question bolded it out for a reason. They won't always do that on a test, but we're starting from B, which means B is my P1. Always, always, always the starting point. And we're going towards C. So C is the destination. That's my P2. That's where I'm going. Now, the rest of the question says the train hits a giraffe and spills its load at a point that divides the train's path in a ratio of 3 to 1. So Mr. Auger has killed this poor giraffe on the train tracks, and the location of that giraffe, which is at G, right here, divides the line segment BC in a ratio of 3 to 1. In other words, this amount of space that the train has covered, has traveled, is 3 times bigger than this space over here. So altogether, it's been divided into 4 spaces, 3 here and 1 there, 4 spaces altogether, and the train has traveled 3/4 of that distance where it has the accident with the giraffe, which is right there. And the question goes on to say that everything within a distance of 75 kilometers of that train wreck gets contaminated with nuclear waste, and that a pet store filled with cute little puppies is located at coordinates 8, negative 9, and Mr. Auger wants to know whether or not he's endangered those puppies. So, in other words, we want to know, is this distance right here inside the 75 kilometers? Is it less than 75 or bigger than 75? And if it's inside the 75, if it's less than 75, then those poor puppies are going to glow in the dark. But if it's bigger than 75, then presumably they're perfectly safe. So the problem is this. I mean, if I knew the location of G, it would be very easy to determine if the puppies were safe. I would just have to calculate the distance from G to P, from the giraffe to the puppies. And if that was, as I said, inside 75, boo-hoo. But the problem is we don't know the location of that giraffe. We don't know where the train had the accident. That is an unknown X and an unknown Y. All we do know is that it is at a point that divides the segment BC in a ratio of 3 to 1. So that's code. As soon as you see that ratio really in the question, we know that we're using the locate a point. So basically, the way to solve the problem is really simple. We're going to find G using the ratio formula, and once we know where G is, we can plug it and P into the distance formula to test that distance and to see how far along how far the distance is between the two. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find that train accident. So we're going to find G, and that's where the giraffe got struck by the train. And the formula for that is, of course, that the located X, the X we're looking for, will always be equal to X1 plus the ratio A over A plus B, which really just changes the ratio into a fraction. We could probably already figure that out in our heads, right? 3 out of 4 times X2 minus X1. So this is my X1 and my Y1, and this is my X2 and my Y2 for finding G. Starting point is always your P1, as I said. And so now it's really easy to just plug in the numbers. So I'm looking for my X1. My starting X is negative 19 plus 3 over 3 plus 1. Remember, the first number in the ratio is an A, and the second number in the ratio is the B, always. And then I'm going to go X2, which is 57, minus X1, which is negative 19. I'll put that negative 19 in brackets just to make it pop. And forgive me my chicken scratch, but that's a negative. It's a minus there. 57 minus negative 19. So I'm going to simplify that bracket and the fraction before I do anything with the calculator. XL is equal to negative 19 plus 3/4. 3 plus 1 is 4 times. Now 57 minus negative 19. Be very careful when you go 57 minus negative 19. you make sure you use that negative, you should get on your calculator a positive 76 when you do that. 57, sorry, minus, and then remember that the 19 must be negative to get that 76. Now on the calculator, we're going to do this in one step. We're going to take this whole piece here, the 3 divided by 4 times 76, and we're going to do it in one shot on the calculator. First, you're going to go 3 divided by 4, hit equals. You should see 0.75 when you do that because that's the decimal here. And then multiply that decimal by whatever's inside the brackets. At the end, we'll then add it to negative 19. So XL is equal to negative 19 plus. Here we go on the calculator, and I apologize, the numbers are tough to see, but I'll read them out as I punch them. So it's 3 divided by 4 times, there's the 0.75, and then times that by 76 and hit equals. And there's your 57. So it's negative 19 plus 57. So negative 19 plus 57 gives us a located x of 38. So down here at the bottom of the question, you'll see there's a place to put that x value, the 38. And you can see we're still missing the y value. So we know the x here is the 38, but we need that y. So we'll use the same formula, except instead of x's, we're going to use the y's from the equation. I'll do that down here. So YL, the located L, will be equal to y1 plus the ratio over the a plus b, a over a plus b times y2 minus y1. So YL equals, y1 is 11, plus we already know that that comes to 3/4, and the y2 is 63. Remember, that's where we were going, right, in between those 2 points, the starting point and the end point. 63 minus 11. So that becomes YL is equal to 11 plus, I'm just going to leave that 3/4 in there for now, and I'll simplify this. 63 minus 11, sorry about that, is 52. And now on the calculator, we'll get rid of that fraction with that number all in one shot. 3 divided by 4, hit your equals. So we know that that's 0.75. Now you could rewrite that, but there's no real need to because you know you're going to multiply it by the 52. And the nice thing, of course, is if that's an ugly decimal, the calculator will keep the whole thing. You'll get a more accurate answer. So that's 11 plus 39. So that is 50 when you add those two numbers up. So we found out that the giraffe is located at 3850. So the second part of the question is, hey, is the distance of G to P, that line segment, equal to something that's smaller than 75? So we use the formula for distance, x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. And that will tell us. So in this case, we have to stop again and ask, okay, well, what's our P1 and our P2? So this time the P1 is at G and the P2 is at P. It doesn't really matter with distance because the distance from G to P is the same as the distance from P to G. So it doesn't really matter which one is which. But in general, it's important to at least identify them. So we know that my P1, I'll call that 38, 50, which is the point we located, and P2 is where we're looking for the puppies, which is at 8 and negative 9. So I'm going to take a second. Don't forget the square root, very common error. I'm going to do the brackets first, just write everything down, and then we'll worry about simplifying it afterwards. So x2 is negative 9 minus x1, which is 50. We're going to square that, and then we're going to add that to y. Oops, didn't I do that? Oh, I did the y's there. My apologies. Let me restart that. Truthfully, it doesn't actually matter, but we'll do it again. Just don't want to mess anybody up here. So x2 is 8 minus x1, which is 38 squared, plus y2, negative 9, minus y1, which is 50, and then we're going to square that. So 8 minus 38, now 8 minus 38 equals negative 30. And this is really important, guys, especially if you're working with a regular calculator. You need to put that negative 30 inside brackets. I'll show you why after. Plus negative 9 minus 50 is clear. Negative 9 minus 50 more negative 59. When you get negatives here and you square them, you make sure you're getting positive numbers. And the reason is if you just go 30 squared on your calculator, some calculators, sorry, negative 30 squared on your calculators, some calculators will do the square before the negative and leave your number negative. Remember, when you're squaring a number, this should always be positive. The way to avoid that is by using brackets. So if you use your brackets, on my calculator, you can't really make them out here. Let's see if I can just lift that up for a second. You can kind of see them. I'm sorry about that. Anyways, you know what the brackets look like. Make sure you use them. So open the bracket up, negative 30, close the bracket, then hit the square. And that should solve your problem. The other one, sorry, let me just clear that, 59 squared is 3,481. So when we add those two numbers together, the 900 and the 3,481, so plus 900 is 4,381, which when we take the square root, last step, you get 66.18. We want it rounded to one decimal, so 66.1. We look backwards, that's an 8, which means we're going to round the 1 up. So 66.2 is the distance. And because the 66.2 kilometers is not 75, that means those poor puppies aren't going to be purchased by anybody anytime soon, because the puppies are contaminated. They are not safe, thanks to Mr. Auger's wicked math problem. I hope that ran relatively smoothly. Sorry about the calculator and the bit of glare here on this last one. We'll continue to look at these over the next couple of days.